Purpose is the gentleman from California seeking.
I rise to oppose the amendment.
The gentleman is recognized.
And I yield to Mr. Westerman for 3 minutes.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I must say, as I rise in opposition to this amendment, that I serve on the Natural Resources Committee with the gentlewoman from Michigan, and I know that we hold a common idea to be good stewards of our resources. We just happen to have a difference of opinion on the best way to do that on this issue. So I must rise in opposition to her amendment. Our nation's forests are in dire health, and Congress must provide the Forest Service additional tools to allow more management of our national forest system. This amendment would needlessly deny the Forest Service an opportunity to more quickly address a forest system that is overgrown and prone to wildfire, disease, and insect infestation. Last summer, I was proud to sponsor H.R. 2647, the Resilient Federal Forest Act, which passed the House with a strong bipartisan majority. This bill included several provisions to allow the Forest Service to engage in urgently needed restoration in a more timely fashion. These are forest stands that are already being destroyed by natural occurrences, and in order to restore those forest habitats, we have to act in an urgent and a timely manner. One specific provision would allow the Forest Service to treat up to 3,000 acres of land at a time under a categorical exclusion from NEPA within limited circumstances. Some of these circumstances include treating a forest infected by invasive species, if a forest has been affected by natural disasters such as a hurricane or tornado, or if work is needed to protect a municipal water source. This provision was based on a carefully crafted provision in the 2014 Farm Bill that the Forest Service has used successfully to reduce the threat of catastrophic wildfire in our rural communities. I am pleased that Chairman Calvert chose to include this provision in the fiscal year 17 Interior Appropriations Bill. The Natural Resources Committee has heard testimony from stakeholders across the country about the dire need to better manage our forest. We've heard from the Forest Service that nearly 60 million acres of land are in need of some form of treatment. While we wait for the Senate to act on wildfire legislation, we must continue to seek opportunities to help reduce the threat of wildfire to communities across the country. This amendment would strip this important provision from the appropriations bill. We should be doing more to shorten the time frame for the Forest Service to engage in restoration work. I urge my colleagues to join me in opposing this amendment, and I yield back.
The gentleman from Arkansas yields to the gentleman from California.
I reserve the balance.
The gentleman reserves. The gentlelady from Michigan is recognized.
Madam Chairwoman, I want to quickly respond to the comments made by my dear friend. And we are good friends, and we all do need to work together to protect our great lands in this country. But I would respectfully disagree, and I have nothing but the utmost respect for both of my Republican colleagues that I hate disagreeing with. But we agree on the same goal, but I respectfully disagree on your disagreeing on my amendment. Some of these activities may be appropriate for a categorical exclusion, but that should be decided by the agency on a case-by-case basis, not be dictated by Congress, which you tell us many times in an appropriations bill. Make no mistake, mandating the use of categorical exclusions like this bill proposes is simply a ruse to make an end run around NEPA and the public process that's so important to it. We often hear that NEPA is a scapegoat for projects being delayed, and I would not want that to be the case, but GAO and others have found that outside issues, including the complexity of the project, local opposition, and most importantly, funding issues, are most always the cause of the delays. We shouldn't be limiting public comments and involvement in government decisions, but instead should be enhancing them. This bill does the opposite, and I urge my colleagues to support this amendment. I yield back the balance of my time.
The from Michigan yields back the balance of her time. The gentleman from California is recognized.
I just want to make a point. At this time, there are about 66 million dead and dying trees in my state. It's estimated that over the next few years, we could lose up to 120 million trees. That's 20% of the entire state of California's total. The trees are dying from drought, severe insect and disease infestation, which only intensifies the potential for disastrous and potentially catastrophic fires. Unfortunately, we've already seen the loss of life and property from fast-moving wildfires this year. This most recently right in the Majority Leader's congressional district, where people unfortunately lost their lives. I worked with a senior senator from California on this. We've used this to the benefit of our state, and other states have used it to the benefit of theirs. This provision is truly limited in nature. It can only be used on small acreages, about 3,000 acres or less. And so I oppose this amendment and reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman has time remaining.
Is the gentlelady yield her time?
The gentlelady has yielded.
I would urge opposition and yield back the balance.
The gentleman from California yields back. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentlewoman from Michigan. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it. The amendment is not agreed